And it's true. You notice that from session 3 all the way down through session 10 on the calendar, that there's a pattern. That each week, Monday and Tuesday, beginning week 10, which is your second week, Monday and Tuesday, you get to do 3 postings about the project that you have to develop on Wednesday and Thursday. So you get to do 3 10-point postings, and then you can develop those 3 10-point postings into a paper, right? So the pattern that you noticed for each of those, I'm gonna call those couplets, 2 sessions, you notice that in one session, you're gonna do 3 10-point postings, following this same pattern, the idea and source, definition, a second outside source, how you would use that or why you like that idea, and a creative discussion point or question, an evaluative item about that original idea. So if you chose 3 ideas, idea 1, idea 2, and idea 3, that all support whatever the project is. So here's Monday and Tuesday, and then on Wednesday and Thursday you have a project due by midnight Thursday. If you chose 3 ideas that support that project, well then you've already got 2 sources, you know, an original source and an outside source, an original source, outside source here. So you're going to have at least 6 sources to support your project. Plus, when you start telling the definition of that supporting idea, how you would use it, something creative about it, you've got most of your text for that paragraph, that supporting paragraph, already written. Is that what you were saying? Okay, well, then I helped you develop that idea. Then I gave you even more than what the pattern that you noticed. So do you see what a great idea you noticed? That you could come up with 3 ideas, 3 supporting ideas to support project. So like say when you're writing about the intended curriculum, which is on session 4, that's on Thursday of your second week, which is week 10. Well, you could go in and you could interview some people, or go look at the State Department website, or maybe look at your school website, or look at your textbook, or talk with your fellow scholars in class. If you exchange names and phone numbers and email addresses, you could exchange some ideas and use each other as outside sources, and you could come up with all kinds of ideas about where does the intended curriculum come from? You know, how much of the intended curriculum comes from the teachers in each of your buildings? How much of the intended curriculum comes from the textbooks, and who chooses those textbooks? How much of the intended curriculum comes from the State Department, or from having to get your kids ready for a test? So how much of the intended curriculum actually comes back from the tested curriculum? How much of it comes from you? How much are you independent in your school to teach whatever you want to teach? You know, like on those days when you have the cricket in the corner like we had a while ago, or the butterfly that flies in. You know, that's always kind of the stereotype that we use. But on those days where you have something that's beautiful or really neat that day that gets the kids excited, how independent can you be to take that learningful moment and leave your lesson plan and change your intentions and teach what you want to teach? So what is it that drives the intended curriculum for your subject and for other teachers at your school? How much of it comes from the teacher? How much of it comes from, say, maybe parents and community, the PTA, whatever? How much of it comes from administration at your school or at the superintendent's office or the curriculum director's office? How much of it comes from the State Department? Maybe some of it comes from the federal government. How much of it comes from the textbook makers? How much of it comes from research? Are you going to take any ideas from this class, from your program, from your master's program or your certificate program, and take it back to your school and have it affect the intentions of what you teach? So You only need 3 ideas. Now, how many did I just list for you right then? 5 or 6 or 7, right? So, you might want to have more than 3 ideas to back up your project on what is the intended curriculum at your school. Does that make sense? Everybody with me on that? Well, okay, let's go on then. Okay, that's a good question. So what about then the next project, the planned curriculum? So we'll go over to that, those 2 sessions. You have a session where you get to do 3 10-point postings. So idea 1 for 1 10-point posting, idea 2, so this is on Tuesday, this is on Monday and Tuesday. So for idea 1, idea 2, idea 3. So at least 3 supporting ideas. You can develop 3 10-point postings for at least 3 of the supporting ideas for the planned curriculum. So where do you come up with how you plan at your school? Is your plan different for most days than it is, say, when you're going to have a substitute coming? Is there a required plan at your school? Did you learn a certain system of planning in your undergraduate education classes? Do you follow a plan from the State Department, from your district? If you have a weak teacher or a new teacher, say a first-year teacher, have you ever helped a teacher to improve her or his teaching by having a more complete plan for each lesson? A burned out teacher, have you taken a burned out teacher and helped a fellow scholar or fellow teacher by helping him or her to improve his or her plan for, say, something new and exciting to teach? So there's just so many ideas there again. I would interview other teachers at my school. I would talk to the principal. I would talk about the curriculum director at the district if you have one. The textbook, the optional textbook, is always a good source. The internet is always a good source to talk about lesson planning. The State Department probably has some information about lesson planning. And I'll bet if you go back and look at your notes from your undergraduate education courses, now you said that you are doing alternative certification, so you're going to have to pick the brains of some of these people who had the benefit of going through undergraduate education and had training in how to do a lesson plan. Some of them learned a 5-step lesson planning format where they have maybe an objective, or sometimes they even learn to have an exciting short, sometimes those are called anticipatory set, or a high interest activity even before they state the objective to the kids. So a high interest activity, stating the objective, then maybe coming up with a discussion or a lecture, then a guided practice where you have the kids get together in groups or have a back and forth discussion with each other and with the teacher. Then maybe an independent practice, that could be homework or it could be individual or group work in the library or at their seats in circles. And then finally some sort of evaluation. Oh, usually a closure, a wrap up before you have an evaluation. Very typical mastery learning approach to teaching. It's not the only way to teach. That's not a discovery lesson. That's more a planned lesson. So how can you use planning to help you make sure that you teach the objective that you meant to teach that for that lesson in your class? How do other teachers do that? Where does the planning, the method of planning that you use and that other teachers use at your school, where does that come from? Could some teachers be helped out by having better planning, knowing how to plan? I really think about those first-year teachers or the substitute teachers that have to come and cover your class. So, does that give you some ideas? 8, okay. Pick 3 or 4 of those as your best supporting ideas that you think are most important, or you could use them all, and then write your paper over the planned curriculum and how that affects your school. Sure, yeah, if you wanted to improve planning, that's a great service learning project, yeah. Okay, now you said that you're on the committee to help a first-year teacher. Wow, you could use this project for what you're doing at school, or you could use what you're doing at school in planning for this project. Sure, whatever y'all do, you don't have to follow the format that we are doing. If you already have something that you fill out at school and a way that you are helping that teacher, you could use that document, whatever it is you're doing to document. It could be an improvement plan for that teacher. Sure. Okay, yeah, now that's a twofer. Anytime you can use what you're already having to do at school to fulfill one of these projects, perfect. That's field-based learning. That's what our program is supposed to be. As field-based as it possibly can be, especially for those of you that are doing great things in your schools already. Okay, the taught curriculum, well, right there, I mean, what are the factors? I would talk to fellow teachers, ask them, do you always teach what you plan? Do you always teach what you're supposed to, what's in the intentions? Do you do sometimes a discovery lesson? Do you have those learningful moments? Yeah, okay, great idea. The week before testing, is it different, or the month before testing, is the taught curriculum approached differently than the rest of the year? Okay, you're nodding yes. Okay, so, maybe no, maybe yes. You tell us, that's your paper. How much of the taught curriculum is driven by each student's needs? And that's always a great thing, like you say you have a kid who's inclusion, you have a kid who has an IEP and is in your class. How many of you have had cooperative learning workshops where you know how to include a kid in groups to where they all do meaningful work in that group? Be a good example, yeah. Sure, I mean, you can take that topic. You don't have to, but that's, it's your choice on what you're going to write about for the taught curriculum. Well, once again, you're going to have Monday and Tuesday where you can do the 3 ideas, and then Wednesday and Thursday to write the project. So instead of plan, those 4 days, you're going to have 3 ideas about the taught curriculum. Okay? And all the sources. You're going to have an original source for number 1 for the idea, and then you're going to have a second source that you back it up with. That's Bloom's level of looking at 2 different sources that might complement each other or might contradict each other. That's analysis and synthesis. And you're going to have 2 more sources here for this idea and 2 more sources for this idea that support what you do in your school. Say it again. You can use interviews. I wouldn't just use interviews, but sure, I mean, interviewing your teachers, all your stakeholders, your principal, your superintendent. You've already got another district where you would like to work. If you could schedule it, go down and talk to the principal there and superintendent and get them excited about the work that you're doing this year at your school, so that when a position comes open there, they remember your name. I mean, you can be self-serving with this, sure. It's hard to sometimes get off work and go visit another district when people are still there. So you might, yeah, take a day off. I'm not going to tell you to do that, but, however you want to take care of that, yeah. Great ideas, guys. Okay, so I appreciate your input on that.